Hey guys, what's up? So, I want to take a quick minute to talk about resources for a BIM coordinator. So, just to let everyone know, a lot of BIM coordinators are all different, and I think what's special about a BIM coordination position is it opens up opportunities to get into different niches. So machine learning, generative design, computational design, data mining, whatever the case is, there's a lot of opportunities by going into the BIM world. And so there's no specific outline way to get to BIM coordination. I really think it varies, especially when dependent on where you are going to be in industry. You know, for example, if you're going to be in design or a BIM consultant, or maybe you're working for a general contractor, or maybe you're working for an HVAC subcontractor or a electrical, it all varies really. And even those have their own specialties that you can get into. If you're working with fabricating your own parts, you may want to get into technologies that are best oriented to making those things faster, or just really getting into things that you have fun with. You know, for example, I've worked for a sub, and I've worked for GC, or for a design and build company, and currently I'm primarily design. And some of my side hobbies is machine learning and working with data, which ties, directly into BIM and what I do. So what I want to give is kind of an outline of some of the tools and books and auditorial things that I've been using through my learning journey. But again, I think it really varies, and especially to what you prefer, because I think there's just so many opportunities. You don't need to be an expert in everything, because it's going to be almost impossible to do that. I really think it's important to find what works for you, what maybe your company can potentially benefit from, and really going down that path. And when you do go down that path, and you identify this isn't going to work for you, and that this isn't something you want to learn, then I encourage dropping that off your list and directly getting in, directly trying some other stuff out and just seeing how it works for you. Because there's just so many things out there, and there's no sense in wasting your time in something that you're not going to love and like. So with BIM coordination, again, there's just so many different ways to get into it. And right now, what's big, at least in North America and a number of other places, is Revit. So one of the books I would recommend is Autodesk Revit 2016 MEP. Again, 2016 isn't that's not going to be relevant now. Some of the most of that information is going to be relevant, but again, there's going to be an updated version. So definitely check that book out. But I don't want to reference anything that I haven't read or looked at myself. This one I have, and I have to say I like it. And what it does, I think this is a great kind of introduction to Revit from the MEP standpoint, because this is going to get you into designing some simplistic systems, kind of get in there, working with the different MEP functions, and just giving you an overall knowledge of how it works. So I do think it's an important book. Definitely, it comes with some video tutorials as well, so those are definitely nice. And at the end of this video, what I'll do is I'll take all this stuff and I'll compile it down into the comments or the description. You can just, if you want to take a look at this stuff, order it, or if you just want to get more information, I'll have those links down there for you. So Revit 2016 MEP Fundamentals, I recommend it if you're going to be in the MEP realm, or you're just beginning. More or less, it's a beginner's book. This is kind of another beginner's book. Again, this is 2015. I've read this one specifically. I wouldn't recommend buying it now. Maybe get an updated version if there is one. There may be some iterations to the newer one, maybe a different building. I'm not entirely sure, but this book in itself is still really good. So this is going to take you kind of from a ground all the way up to a built building, architecturally, structure, and MEP. So you're going to build all that stuff and really get your hands in it. And it's a page by page walkthrough of the entire setup. What's nice is this one also comes with some videos as well, so that you can take a look if you prefer to learn that way. So I recommend this book as more of an introduction to Revit and everything that it has to offer. It's gonna definitely get you running with it. It has a lot of information, so maybe check out the updated one. This link will be down there if you want to take a look. So that'll bring me to my next one. So Revit's huge, but so is Navisworks, and it depends on really where you are in industry. If you're a sub, you may use this more or less than a design firm. Generally, you're going to use it more. A GC, you're going to be using it probably a lot, especially if you don't. If you're working with a number of consultants that are working in different authoring tools, and Navisworks can integrate all those pretty seamlessly, then this tool might be heavily used. There's another one called Celebre and some others that kind of work in the same way and have the same functionality, but Navisworks is kind of the mainstream one that a lot of people have. So this book, I think, in and out, is one of the best ones. I haven't really read any others, and I haven't needed to. This one kind of covers everything. The really gets really in the know. It gets in depth in some of the different properties and what you can really do with Navisworks, touching on all the capabilities and tools. So I've read this book a number of times, and I use it as a quick reference if I need to take a look at something. So I 100% recommend this, and for this example in 2016, I frankly think this is fine for you. Totally okay to use this one, because you're just not gonna. Navisworks hasn't made really since 2016 a whole bunch of improvements to its software, its interface. It's made a few things, but nothing dramatic. There hasn't been like huge efficiency increases since the last releases to really need to get an updated book or anything. So I definitely think if you're going to get this book, get the updated one, but really it doesn't really matter if it's cheaper to get this. I recommend getting 16. The interface is so much of the same that you're going to get all the information you need, and in that one book it has everything. So this is really going to cover everything. If you're getting started with Navisworks, this will give you all your little tutorials and stuff and walk you through them. So my next one is Mastering Autodesk Revit MEP. So I should have had this before Navisworks, but it is what it is. So this one, this one's a little bit more on the advanced level, because it gets into templates and parameters and work sets and work sharing, and kind of in depth on different ways to set it up, and maybe some theoretical stuff on approaches. So I would recommend definitely having this book as a reference for when you get into different subjects that you're not entirely sure what to do. You can reference it, and it has all that information in it, and it touches on the different systems and stuff, and what you can add to them and what you can do with them, and getting into the settings, and it gets in depth pretty well, and it's strictly on MEP systems, so it's a pretty big book just focused on that. So there's a lot of information there. I would definitely recommend it. As definitely when you get into industry and just working, to just have it there as a quick reference, or maybe taking a glance at it before you go to bed, at a different topic each night. Whatever the case is, I think it's a good book. 2015, I think there's some new releases. I would recommend getting the new ones, because Revit has been improved quite a bit since 15. So unlike Navisworks, it definitely has some interface and some functionality improvements. So I would definitely look at the newer one. If I do find those links to the newer ones, I will share those. Again, I just don't want to talk about books I haven't personally read, but I will see if I can find the updated books. So my next one, again, this should have been before Navisworks. So whatever the case, Autodesk Revit 2019 Architectural Command Reference. So this is a great book, kind of like the Mastering MEP one, but this one is more button to button, and it talks about the button, and it talks about some workflows behind it and experience with it. Daniel Stein and Jeff Hansen wrote this book. I can't speak too much on Jeff Hansen, but I know Daniel Stein has a lot of experience. He actually also wrote this design integration book as well. But this one is a great reference if you're working in a lot of architectural stuff. It does have references for some MEP functionality as well. But this one is a really great book, and I've been referencing it quite a bit on some little stuff like just some properties on opening up a drawing or looking at different stuff within your Revit project, specific to settings or specific to a command that you aren't too familiar with. You can reference that, find it, and say, and then have a whole bunch of information on it. So I think it's a great book. Even as a beginner, it may be nice to look at it because it's a full through, it's full and of information just on architectural stuff. So check it out. Let me know if you get it, and if it's any good. This is the latest one. This is the one I have, and I have to say it's really good. So this is BIM and construction. So the next two books actually are specific to BIM and workflows with them. So BIM and construction is going to have, I like it. It's more construction specific. So I'm talking about Navisworks and Timeliner and using it for scheduling purposes, maybe doing some quantity takeoff stuff, a lot of functionality that construction management firms use a lot. So this book is more on the basic level. It's not too in-depth, and it doesn't get into theoretical stuff or the more complex ideas. But I definitely think getting into BIM and construction, say if you're going to be hired at a GC, then, like Skanska or something like that, then this may be a good book to reference for you while you're working through and kind of learning the trade and getting familiar with everything. Then this will give you a holistic view of how everything kind of ties together from the BIM perspective. So that brings me to my next book. That's more BIM specific, so more kind of holistically looking at everything, and this is the BIM Handbook. So this one is, like it says in the model, it's going to cover BIM and this is going to be a reference for owners, designers, engineers, contractors, FM guys. It has a lot of in-depth information, really talking about the history of BIM, where it's going, FM applications, theoretical stuff, really construction contracts. It really dives deep into all the different little niches of BIM itself. So I think after reading a book like this, you'll really have a holistic understanding of how BIM is being approached now and today, and kind of getting an idea of where it's going to go into the future, and maybe plan or pre-plan your learning path based on it. So I do think it's a great book. The authors all have some great track history. I know a number of them have done a number of other books as well. So I'm currently reading this. I've gotten most of it done, and I would say for sure give it a shot. Take a look at it. It's going to cover a lot of topics and really get into some of the more complex stuff and really make you start to think about how you're approaching things. So it's definitely a good book to check out. So that brings me to the next one. So I've always thought, since I started getting into this industry, how really from design or from concept to a built building, and even to FM to the end of the building's life, is that we need to, as BIM coordinators, really holistically see how all this stuff ties together so that we can really effectively make efficient workflows from one stage to the next. And so that brings me to like print reading and for construction. And what this does is it gives you an idea of how to look at drawings and understand what's going on, and maybe understand how buildings are more constructed, and get a better idea of how everything comes together. And just from a coordination standpoint, the end result for now is we turn over construction documents that people are going to reference and learn from. So I think it's important to understand the layout and how drawings work, so that we can effectively build workflows that are going to make that more streamlined. And so this book is in my opinion, massively basic. It's really going to touch simply on different things like plumbing drawings, maybe some, I think it's some ISOs in there as well. It's going to look at architectural stuff, but what's nice is that when you buy this book, you're going to get the book, and you're also going to get, I can't remember the number, but 50 to 100 actual drawings that you can reference and take a look at. And that's nice because they're on hand. You can take a look at them to just learn pretty much and play around with them, and just check them out, because I mean, right now our industry works in that way. They design buildings, or they build the buildings off these documents. So it's a good book to reference. I wouldn't say I think, you know, with this and getting into industry, you're gonna have to know when it comes to construction drawings. So that'll get me into my next one, is construction management. So I do think it's massively important, you know, if you're not working for a GC and you're working, you know, more in the design realm, I think this book is important in both areas. GC, you know, this may directly impact you, but as a design guy, you, or design woman or man, you may not find that you're working too much with construction folks, but that seamless workflow from design to construction is what's really important to benefit the client and, you know, everybody on the team. So I think understanding how construction works and the management behind it, and how all these different entities or, you know, companies all kind of integrate with one another, thinking about the owner, thinking about the subs, the GC, the design, thinking about how we're going to integrate and really streamline all our processes to help one another and to make a really effective and good project. So, and this book also touches on contracts as well, so you can take a look at contracts, how they're built, how they're kind of, some of the terminology that you would look for in them, and it just gives you an overall understanding of how a construction site works without directly kind of being involved with it. So I definitely think it's important. This comes back to the holistic view of how everything ties together. I think it gives you good starting point to start looking at how construction works with design, and the other way around as well. So those are the books that I would recommend, and that brings me to my next thing. So these are podcasts. So BIMThoughts is really great. So it's topic to topic. They vary. It'll bring in people like from Ideate and a number of other software companies as well. They also have conversations about or with industry professionals like Daniel Stein talking about VR, or talking to Ian Siegel about Dynamo and different stuff like that. So this is audio, so it's not like the best thing, but it's nice. It's an added one. You're going to learn from it. And, you know, maybe just listen to it on your way in, your drive in, just to kind of get maybe some information that you could potentially use or look into later. That's generally how I use it. If I hear a cool thing on how somebody's using it on this podcast, then I'll get into the office, I'll look it up and say, okay, that's pretty cool. This might be something I need to look into at a later point. So again, audio isn't the best form of education when it comes with this kind of stuff, but I definitely think in the format that they structure this, it's a great tool to use. Again, with podcasts, there's the ConTech crew. So this is, BIMThoughts is more, it's varied, but it's more design specific, and it's BIM oriented. So it's a lot of workflows with Revit, software companies that tie into Revit, Bluebeam, and some of those other tools. And we'll take a look. This is the ConTech crew, and taking a look at it, you can see that it's construction specific. So they're kind of varied on tools and software. They kind of talk about them. They bring in people, interview them, and then they have a section of the podcast where they go over news. So I would for sure recommend this, because again, this ties into holistically understanding the construction's point of view and how they're using this information. If you're working specifically with design, if you're working in construction, then this is a nice podcast to just kind of stay in the know and That way you understand how people are using different tools and what their different approaches are. So it's definitely a great podcast, and I think they release it weekly. So my next one is this is more video based. So they're all videos, and they're structured as courses with a number of videos that are associated with that course. When you finish it, you get a certification that you can save or put on your LinkedIn account. And you can see here I've got collections. So this is nice, and the reason why I've got this one open is because you can go in here and say you can create a collection of BIM coordinator / lead videos and kind of start storing them in there. Construction specific ones. I have one for machine learning, and you can search so many different things. And what's nice about this about LinkedIn Learning is it has a ton of resources. So if you want to learn more about management, or if you want to learn specific things within Revit, you can do that. And there's so many good BIM famous people on here, or I like to call BIM famous people, that really know what they're doing and are very credible. I can't name them all, but I definitely recommend at least giving this a trial. There's a 30-day trial. You can check it out. And just giving it a go and seeing if there's a lot of good information that may apply to you, or this may not be a good fit, but just checking it out and taking a, just a fly through of different courses and stuff. So the next one is Autodesk University. So I think this is massively important because it's entirely free. So you just create an account, and then you can search their library. So for example, we're talking about BIM coordination. I can just search BIM coordinator, press enter, and then it's going to show you all the courses. So these are actually the classes that they present at AU, and if you're not familiar, if you're first getting into the realm of BIM, there's a lot of hosted conferences around the world, and AU is a huge one, which is Autodesk University, and they present, I think, 4 of them, and one's in America, and they record a lot of those classes, so you can actually search them, and this is entirely free. Instead of spending $4,000 to fly out there, sit there, and go through all the courses, a specific amount, because you can't cover all of them, you can actually come to this site and then view all the recorded ones, and they really get into they'll get into case studies, processes with specific software, like Navisworks workflows, or talk about different theoretical stuff, or get into how to set up details and do all these tips and tricks. So give it a shot, take a look at it. It's totally free, so it's one of the more bigger resources I would recommend, just for the fact that it is free and it's all Autodesk oriented, so it's a lot of stuff that's going to be specific to BIM. My next one is Google Alerts. So you can just set up a Google account, and then you set up Google Alerts, and so this is an output of Google Alerts. So I do it weekly. You can do it daily as well. And what you do is you pick a number of items. So right now I've got construction, Revit, social media, machine learning, construction coordination, leadership. And what it does is it kind of searches the web, and it finds all the different links that have that specific word in it. So it just kind of goes through there, grabs them, and then it compiles it all for you so that you can go through it. So I'll do this weekly. I'll spend one day, or spend a couple hours going through a number of articles. I'll read them, and then I'll post them if they're any good. And this kind of keeps me in the know, and it gives me an opportunity to just see what's out there. And again, this is Google Alerts. You can see here I can create a new alert, and here's a list of alerts I can add. You just create that list. You can edit it and change it based off of what your priorities are. Next one is forums. I think forums are massively important, not just for asking questions, but for identifying problems that people are having. It depends on what your role is, but as a BIM coordinator, I can say that a lot of people will ask you a whole bunch of questions, Autodesk software, just software in general specific. And what's nice about forums is you get a robust amount of people just asking questions about basic or advanced things. And what you can do is take 20 minutes, look at a question, and then actually try to find an answer to it. You don't have to post for it, but at least find the answer and start getting used to that workflow of identifying a problem and then finding a solution to it. And again, this is also a great resources for, if you're spending too much time, you can post it on here and actually you generally get a good answer pretty quickly. So yeah, that's one good way to learn the software, is just finding problems, because sometimes just coming up with the problems yourself, you may not just do that, because with the lack of experience it may be difficult. So I recommend just checking it out, maybe answering a few questions if you can find the answers to them, and just learn different ways how you're going to find the information you need. So my next one is LinkedIn Learning. Or LinkedIn, actually, just LinkedIn specifically. And what's nice about this is growing your networks is massively important, because everybody's kind of doing something different, and learning from each other is very important. That's what all these tools have in common, is everything that I've showed you up to this point has been created from somebody or a group of people have been creating this content and sharing it, and I think connecting with people is massively important, and really sharing and receiving information is really what's going to improve this industry overall, and really grow your overall knowledge of how things work. So create a LinkedIn account and just really start getting out there and talking with different people. You could also do a Twitter account. A lot of folks in the AEC industry are on Twitter. I haven't seen too much action on Facebook or anything, but right now primarily is what I use is LinkedIn. Another great thing, and this is kind of to the networking area, is user groups. So this is actually the local one that I'm at, St. Louis Revit user group. But depending on where you're at, generally there's something, and if there isn't, it may be good. There may be an opportunity there for you to set one up, even if nobody shows up. What's nice is kind of setting up presentations and doing it yourself, and just learning how to do all that stuff is important. But if you do get people involved, what's nice is you have a whole bunch of experienced people, and you can start spreading different ideas. Again, what I think is important is holistically tying everything together. And in user groups, you'll get people from across industry that are all in different areas of their development. They're also in different areas of the industry. They may be facility manager professionals. They may be subcontractors, whatever the case is. And then you can start holistically tying things together, or getting better ideas of how all these things kind of fit together. And I think that's so important for when you're approaching different BIM coordination tasks. So that's really all I've got. There's also so many other resources I could mention, but I don't want to drag on too long. I at least want to keep this below half an hour. But these are kind of some of the ones that I listen to the most, so I wanted to share them with you. I'll share every single one of these links so that you can take a look at them yourself. Please reach out if you have any questions. Let me know if there's any cool resources you're using out there, because I'd love to know. And I really do appreciate you watching. Thanks a lot.